this video, we'll look at some basics on percentages, but before that, let's look at fractions. Why? Because that's what percentages are, fractions. By the way, decimals are fractions as well, but we'll leave them for another video. So, fractions. What's a fraction? Are they that confusing and scary? No, let's take a look. A fraction is anything that is part of a whole. Part of a whole. So, let's start with a whole. Here's a whole. If we split that whole into 3, what have we got? That's right, 3 parts. We call these thirds. Now here's the first thing you need to know about fractions. The number of parts in the whole goes on the bottom of the fraction, down here. And the bottom number of the fraction is called? That's right, the denominator. So the denominator tells us how many parts in total the whole is split into. So in this case it's 3. Now let's say we're just looking at 1 part. So in our case we're looking at 1 part out of 3, and the key is that that 1 is written at the top, and that's correct. You probably know that that is called the numerator. So to recap, the denominator is the total number of parts in the whole. The numerator is the number of parts that we are looking at or that we are considering. So I hear you say, big whoop-de-doo. Okay, let's make this a little bit more impressive. Let's say that the whole represents $18. Now if we were asked what is 1/3 of the $18, then we'd be asking how much is that 1 part out of the 3 worth within the whole. 3 groups into 18, that's a division, but probably without even dividing, you can work out it's $6 in each group. 6 3s are 18. And so 1/3 of $18 is $6. The way that we normally write that in maths land is like this. And if you want to see the maths method of working this out, you would change the 18 into a fraction, and then there's a division that goes on, a cancellation. So we can see that 3 goes into 3 and into 18. So how many 3's in 3? 1 last time I checked. How many 3's in 18? 6. And so we've got 6 over 1, which is $6. But the most important concept here is that we're looking at 1/3 out of the 3 thirds, and 1/3 of 18 is going to be $6. That's how it works. Now, what if we were really interested in 2/3 of the total? In this case, 2/3 of 18. Well then, we would write that as 2 out of 3, because we're looking at 2 parts out of the 3 parts now. 2/3 of 18, just using logic, is clearly going to be 6 plus 6 is 12. $12. And if we were to look at that in maths language, we would change the 18 into 18 over 1, spot that 3 goes into 18 again and into 3, so 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 18 6 times, and 2 6s are 12, 12 over 1 is 12. $12 in our case. That's how it works. Now in your long life to date, you may have noticed that there are a lot more types of fractions than thirds. So let's look at this situation. We have a pentagon, and let's divide the pentagon into 5. We'll pretend that they're equal. In this case, let's say that the pentagon represents $30. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about 5 parts, so we're talking about fifths. So the denominator will be 5. And what's this situation telling us? Well, if we're dividing the $30 into fifths, then each part must be 30 divided by 5 is $6 for each part. Now wait up. In the last example, each part was 6 as well. Is that going to be the same in every example? No, of course not. That was just a fluke. Now let's say that the question is, what is 3/5 of $30? Clearly that's pretty easy. 3 of these gives us $6, $12, $18. Any questions that are easy to think through are better off to think through. Some of them you'll need to work out on paper or with a calculator. But this one here is very straightforward. And just out of interest, 4/5 of 30 would be 18 plus 6 is 24. Again, if you want to see the mathematics routine for this, let's just do the first one. 3/5 of means times, 30, turn the 30 into a fraction, so it's 30 over 1. What cancels? 5 goes into both 30 and into 5, so that becomes a 6. 3 6s are 18, 1 on the bottom, 1 times 1 is 1, and that's, again, $18, the same as this over here. Okay, so now you're impressed, I can tell.